Yeah, everybody. Welcome to the Get Funked Podcast Network. Thanks for joining us on the MWA Podcast Network. This is your guest, Angry Allan Funk from WCW, known as Kwee, the Funkster. Wrestled all over the world, the globe, brother. I traveled all over the world with the Night Train, baby. So let's get. I got my good guest tonight, man. A good friend of mine, old pal of mine. Just recently caught up with him, and he was kind enough to come on the show. But first, before I get him on here, I got to do a shout out to a couple of our sponsors. Right here, we have TheWrestlingUniverse.com. TheWrestlingUniverse.com is your one-stop shop for all your wrestling merchandise. They have all kinds of WWE, TNA, UFC, WCW, ECW action figures, past, present, and I'm probably sure future. They carry t-shirts, wrestling cards, autographed 8x10s, masks, belts, and much, much more. So go there and get your autographed merchandise, and they do ship internationally. So if you live in Australia, you live in Japan, wherever you live, and if you live in Japan, you probably can't understand a damn word I'm saying, but they ship internationally, so order anyway. They also, if you're in the New York area, they have in-store signings by some of the biggest names in the wrestling business. They got a bunch of cool guys coming up. They actually got Hugh Morris, one of my old buddies, coming up. They got all kinds of guys. So if you're in the New York area, check it out. TheWrestlingUniverse.com. And all their stuff is comes with a certificate of authenticity. Also, we have Sleeves.com. The Sleeves.com is your one-stop shop. If you know anybody that's an athlete or you're an athlete, go to Sleeves.com, put in code MWA pod. You get you a 10% discount. Don't get any easier than that. Even a retard could do it. Oh, I'm sorry. Even a mentally challenged person can do it. They have headbands. They have dirty boxers, which I have a pair. I got me a dirty boxers with the smiley face on. The women love it. They got arm sleeves. They got headbands, mouthpieces, MMA fighters. Check out Sleeves.com. Wrestlers, whatever your sport is, check them out. Sleeves.com. Don't forget code MWA pod for your 10%. Also, we have healthvape.com. Now, this is if you're going to vape, you might as well use healthvape.com. Put in your code MWA pod again for a 10% discount. It's a healthy vaping alternative. All their items are fused with vitamins, no nicotine, no harmful chemicals. So check out healthvape.com. Put in code MWA pod. If you're going to smoke and kill yourself, do it with some vitamins. Be healthy before you kick the bucket. So go to healthvape.com. So, all right, let's get our, let me get, I'm having a hell of a time here. I'm all screwed up. Okay, how come it ain't going off? Click on this. Oh, hide it. There we go. All right, now I'm going to bring my next guest on here, Lash LeRoux, WCW alumni. Went to the power plant. First met last several years ago at the power plant. But there he is. Sign that ball, hand on hold, let the good times roll. What's up, Lash? We're experiencing technical difficulties here. Lash is already pissing me off. The kid's such a greenhorn. He can't hook up to the Ethernet. He can't do nothing. I had to teach him how to wrestle in the WCW power plant. Now I got to teach him how to podcast. Oh, my bad. Hey, you know what, Lash? I just pulled a hell of a rib on you. I had your mic muted.
And you're blaming me for it.
Yeah. Hey, you know what? I
apologize. I didn't miss the spot. You missed the spot.
Yeah, I missed the whole damn match. but hey, what I want to do, Lash, what I want to do with you while I got you on here, I want to do a 10-bell salute for I got two guys behind me here, Jody Hamilton, the assassin, one of our old mentors. Beautiful Bobby. He used to be down at power plant. You know him well as well as I do. Probably know him a little better than I do. But if you don't mind, you want to do a little moment of silence, give him a 10-bell salute here. So let me kick this 10-bell in here. We're going to give these guys Jody Hamilton, Beautiful Bobby. All right, man. I know that's not much for those guys, but you know, it's something that I always like doing on the show here. And, my condolences go out to both their families, man. The world's missing two good guys today, man, especially, I've never heard a bad thing about either one of those guys. You on there, Lash? You good?
I am, brother. I am.
Okay,
And,
I got you. All right.
You're right. It's hard for your heart not to hurt when you lose those two guys.
Yeah, man, unbelievable, man. I woke up today and seen that, and sucks. So I got to do one more thing before I let you start talking here, Lash. I want to say hey to my girlfriend.
It's tough, and you're talking about two guys.
Oh man, we're on a delay here. So I want to say hi to my girlfriend in Australia, Annette. She's on here right now. She says, "Let me pop this up here. You'll see on the bottom of your screen, Lash, like stuff people will type in there. You see that there?
Yes, that's awesome. Yeah, absolutely. I see it. It's right there.
Yeah, that's Annette. She's one of my faithful listeners, man. And I got to give her some props. Annette there, and she's in over by Melbourne, Australia. So then I got to say hi to Amy Gower Official.
Man, love Melbourne, Australia. Loved Australia.
Yeah. She was actually at I think she was at the shows, Annette, if I remember right. But she's a little bit younger than me, so awesome. She was probably in her teens, So Annette says thanks, Allan. Yeah. So we love Annette on the MWA network. So all right, Lash. Well, let's get this started, man. I know we're kind of on a little bit of delay, man. I'm sorry, bro. I don't know if it's on my end or your end, or we'll just blame StreamYard for it. So I just wanted to I kind of like to explain to people how we met. When I first come down to the power plant for my tryout, you were already went through your tryout and stuff. You want to tell everybody about your tryout down at the power plant? Lash, you there, buddy? How damn it.
For you, 19. Here, can you see me?
Unbelievable. Now, see, before we got on air, Lash got on. He was nice enough to get on early enough. We went 15, 20 minutes, maybe longer, and everything worked fine. Had a couple little glitches, but nothing. Now we're on air live and can't get him. Uh-oh, there he is. You back, Lash?
Are we here?
Yeah, I'm not hearing you, bro. It's brutal. Shoot, I got your. Should be good, man. I can't even hear you. Yeah, let me kick out and then jump back in. Well. Well, yeah. All right. Well, see, if I had my producer in here or Angel Medina, I'd like to give a shout out to Angel Medina for not answering no emails. We try to get him on the show as help me out on the producing end of it. But of course, he's big time. He probably got his ECW royalty check in today, and that there goes that. But I don't know. Well, since Lash ain't with us right now, let me talk about Beautiful Bobby. So Beautiful Bobby used to come down the power plant, right? So he'd be he'd come in and he was whatever we do, we'd be rolling around doing whatever. This dude would sweat like you wouldn't believe. All I remember is Beautiful Bobby sweating like crazy. He'd have like a white t-shirt on, a pair of Zubaz pants or the like, and he'd have a cup of ice in his hand, and he'd be walking around. He'd either have a wad of gum, candy, or a cup of ice, and he'd just be chewing on ice. And I remember we always tried to scare him, and sometimes you really didn't even have to scare him. You could sneak up behind him and Bobby, and he'd be like, oh, he'd drop his cup of ice, or he'd drop his gum, or he'd pick it back up, and we'd all be laughing. But Beautiful Bobby, man, whenever this guy walked into the room, he lit up a room. Everybody always wanted to take his picture with him, or always wanted to talk to him, hang out with him, or whatever, because he was just one of them guys. He was just cool to hang out with. But hey, Lash, if you can hear me, Lash, I still ain't got you. So let me see here. Nope, still ain't got you, Lash. I don't know if you can hear me or not, but I can't hear you at all. But I don't even know if he's trying to talk. But we lost Lash LeRoux, and I want to thank Angel Medina for not showing up. I heard something there. I don't have no video on you though, Lash. I can't see you. Working out some technical difficulties, people. Now, while Lash is still trying to get situated here, so Jody Hamilton, the assassin. I'm sure people back in the day remember Jody. I'm sure kids nowadays don't. That's his picture right there, the mask guy. He was one of the most believable heels there ever was in the wrestling business. And one thing that I cherish is holy crap, look at this good looking dude. All right, can I hear you now?
Yeah, is this any better?
Yeah, a lot better.
Hey, I tell you what I did is I punted and just set up a hotspot. So I apologize for the delay to everybody, but maybe this will be a better connection. I live in the sticks in North Alabama, and so the Wi-Fi is not too great out here. I go out and hit the creek.
It's a lot better. We got a little bit, but now I don't have any delay on you at all, so that's good.
Good. Hey, man, I apologize for that.
No, it's not your fault, man. It's the internet, bro. That's what happens. But all right. So I asked you about your experience at the power plant. Do you remember meeting me at all at the power plant? And then tell me what you remember about my tryout and all that good stuff.
Hey, man, I remember you guys coming through there, brother, and I had not been there very long since then. And what's funny about that, you could probably relate to this. When you first make it through the power plant, I mean, this is a great feeling of accomplishment, and now you feel like you kind of sort of are on a different level, but it's sort of a fake it till you make it type of scenario because you know that next group is coming in and that next tryout group, and like you came in, man, with those guys, and you didn't know if I'd been there 6 months or 6 years because you don't know me from Adam, and I got to act like I'm the big dog at that point, you know, and it was a strange dynamic because I came through, I guess it would have been 97 maybe, November, I think. And I came through in November. I do remember the month. And started December, right around January with my training after I'd made it through the tryout. And then immediately right after that, Mike Sanders came in. And then immediately it seemed right after that came in you, and I don't know if you guys were part of the same tryout crew or not, but you and Elix Skipper and Mark Jindrak and Don O'Hare, he came a little bit later, but Chuck Palumbo. You know, I kind of remember you guys all coming in pretty close to one another.
Yeah, we were within a few months, I believe. Everybody, I think, was one tryout after the other.
That's what it felt like, man. And it's crazy because up until that point, there wasn't a whole lot of people kind of making it through those tryouts. And not that there wasn't a lot of guys in y'all's class either, but it seemed like we were having more frequent tryouts. And I don't know if it's because business was booming the way that it was, and it had picked up. And so that allowed more room for more talent to come in. But there were some before, and then suddenly there was this influx of these guys, man, that was trying out. And every single tryout, there seemed there'd be one standout. And, man, you came in just on fire, man, just energy.
Yeah. I was only, when we talked about this before too, most of the guys, probably Mike, Elix, everybody, I think out of all of us, I think we were all the sole survivor out of their tryout.
Pretty much. And I don't know if you remember it this way or not. Here's how mine kind of went. And this is the story I've always told. You come in for that 3-day tryout, and generally they would start at about a Wednesday and it'd carry through to a Friday. Yeah. And for me, I came in, there were 4 guys in my tryout crew. And I can remember my experience being, man, I got there and there would be guys jacked up, former bodybuilders, guys that washed out of the NFL, guys that were college athletes but couldn't quite make it to the next level. And, you know, I'm a smallish guy, and I've never been big body, and I've never been, you know, kind of medium, middle of the road. You know, nothing really stands out for me athletically. And I looked around and just thought, God, man, I'm the underdog. You know, there's no way they're going to choose me. And at the same token, though, what worked, I think, in the favor of guys like me and you is these athletes that had been athletes their entire lives would come in thinking if they're all inked up and tatted up and shredded and in great shape, that they had the look, they had the mohawk, that WCW is going to sign them right there to a contract. And, you know, that wasn't
right.
Sarge's mentality.
No, you're right. I think they did believe that, actually.
Yeah, I think they thought they had the look, man, and that was not Sarge's mentality. That wasn't Jody Hamilton's mentality. They made you work for it.
Hey, it didn't matter what you look like. That's what I liked about those tryouts, man. There was no prejudice to anybody. Everybody was treated equally like a dirtbag until you proved otherwise.
That's right. It was very Full Metal Jacket-esque.
Oh yeah. We were all equal pieces of shit.
That's right. And I remember going to the tryout and I was looking around. You get about halfway through those squats, man, and you look around really quick and you realize that if you've got heart and you knew that you weren't going to give up, you go, oh, this is a level playing field. You know, I thought I came in the underdog. I may even have the advantage because they might run me off, but I'm not going to quit. I'm not going to quit.
Shit, they would have had to rip my arms and legs off and make me quit.
That's right. And you know what, though? Looking back, too, though, man, I think that was a big part of it, too. The business was different then. They're not going to stop a match just because you had an injury. And they wanted to make sure that if you were going to wrestle for them on live television, that something goes wrong in that match, you're going to push through it. You're not going to stop. You're not going to give up. And I can appreciate that, man. That's an old school mentality, but I think it's the right one.
Oh, hell yeah. Because, you know, nowadays, you know, of course, I'm sure you see everything going on in the world, man. The world's getting soft. You know, people use, you know, they like in the service now, they're telling me, you know, they can pull out a yellow card and take a break, you know, during boot camp. You know, could you imagine giving Sarge, hey, I need a yellow card, Sarge, I need a break? He'd probably kick the damn thing out of your hand.
Of course he would. Of course he would. And just stick the bucket on top of your head.
Yeah, and probably kick that too.
Yeah. So there was no patience for that. No, I was just saying there was no patience for that whatsoever. And man, I think that's the right way to do it.
I mean, dude, they'd kick your feet out from under you, your hands out from under you doing push-ups. See, they didn't give a shit because they wanted to see how much you really wanted it.
Well, that's right. And here's the other flip side of that too, is there's a lot of people that think that's harsh and think that it's people who's big dogging for a big dog. No, you and I both know, and we know from our experience and what we've been through, and hey, our careers kind of ran parallel in a lot of ways early on, especially. And you know that the wrestling business is the type of business that it's going to beat you down if you let it, man. And it's so hard, and you're going to have very high highs and you're going to have very low lows. And so you better have that type of mentality that you don't give up and that you'll push through no matter what.
Yeah, and you know, we went through a lot of that too together because, like you said, within a year of each other at the power plant, feeling those same type of, wow, I made it. Now I feel like I'm now a little bit higher than what I was when I started out. And then, you know, we get on TV, we're doing all this stuff. Then we go to WWE in Cincinnati. We can talk about that later. And then we experience both of the same damn lows 2 weeks before Christmas. And we can talk about that later. But that's what we're getting at, the highs and lows, man. That's a good way to put it, man.
Well, it's exactly right. And so if you're not mentally tough as well as physically tough, you're not going to make it in the wrestling business. You're just absolutely not. And you're not going to last. You may get a little bit of a run or you may get a little bit of a push here and there, but longevity is out the window if you don't have some mental toughness.
Well, plus part of that mental too is I remember when we came up, you got tested a little bit in the locker room once we started going to TVs and stuff, and you really didn't know what you should do because no one really smarted you up to this part of the business. You just kind of, if you had a little bit of common sense, you could kind of figure it out. You know what I mean?
That you're absolutely 100% right, man. And I think a big part of that is they want you to figure out that balance on your own, just like you're saying. And I think it's important too, because you have this really weird balancing act that you've got to play when you're a rookie in the wrestling business, where you better be confident enough and have enough of an ego and have enough belief in yourself that you can go out there on national TV and make everybody else believe that you're a superstar, but you better still be humble enough and have enough humility that you're not acting like that in the back, because if you are, the boys are going to trash you very quickly.
So let me ask you this, since we're talking about that, I had a couple instances with a couple guys, and I could tell you about those. But did you have anybody in the back that kind of tested you a little bit, or kind of pushed your buttons a couple times?
No, not really, not really. And I got to be honest with you. I don't know if it's just because I never sold a big rib, or I can't really remember any large ribs anyway. And one of the things I was always appreciative of is the guys when I came in, man. If I was respectful to them right out the gate, they were usually pretty respectful to me, and I never really got a hard time from any of those guys that were before me. And of course, I may have also had the added advantage of I was always kind of rolling with guys that were older than me, with that next generation. Guys like we were talking about Jody, man. You know me, my running buddy in WCW was Nick Patrick. Nick and I traveled together everywhere, man.
Which is Jody's son, if people don't know.
Jody's son, that's right. The referee Nick Patrick, and so maybe that's insulated me a little bit. I don't know, being close to Nick and being close to Brad Armstrong and those guys. But, man, they were always very good to me. I was shocked that I was treated as well as I was in the locker room.
Yeah, well, I had a little incident with Rick Steiner. I don't know if you remember this. I remember Bill DeMott was actually in the locker room, and I think Kidman was, and maybe Glacier and Canyon. I can't really remember who was in there. But so Steiner comes up to me, and he starts getting in my face, and he's pushing me, Rick Steiner. And, he's, and I'm a young, I'm a fucking greenhorn, bro. I don't have any room to step up. But, I got enough sense from what Sarge has taught me a little bit, and Jody and some of the other guys, So Steiner gets in my face, and I'm thinking, yeah, he might beat my ass, but I'm not going to back down from it. And
right.
And you know how I am. I'm not really a hothead, but I got a lot of energy. So so he I had my pink outfit on, the long pants and the shirt that buttoned up, right? So he keeps poking me in the chest, and I keep getting back in his face, and he's kind of like, man, I can't believe he's really getting in my face. So, he kept poking me. I'm like, oh, yeah, that's tough. You're a tough guy. I was actually saying this, thinking to myself, shut the fuck up. Like, you're an idiot. But I just couldn't shut up. You know how I am. I just can't keep my mouth shut.
Yeah.
So then Steiner takes my shirt off, my pink shirt, and rips it right in half. And then, you know what I do? The dumbass I am. I get in his face, and I went, "Oh, big bad tough guy, you ripped my shirt." I was like, "Oh, that's a real tough move." And he literally, and Hugh, I remember Hugh and Kidman and a couple guys are going, "Holy shit, he's gonna get fucking killed," because I'm literally going, "Oh, you're real tough, Rick. Oh, tough guy," and like a little kid would in school,
Right.
So at that point, though, what happened was I got Rick's respect because I wasn't backing down from him. He knew I wasn't. Now, could he have whooped my ass? There's a 50-50 chance because I'm pretty sure I could whip his ass. But, at the time, I might let him get the best of me so he didn't look bad. He was a veteran. You know what I'm saying?
You got to put the veterans over, right?
It's the least I could do. It was the least I could do, So, but that's my example. But I really didn't know what to expect. And I'm thinking to myself, well, shit, if I get in his face, maybe we will fight. But I was ready to fight him. I really didn't want to. I said, because I'd beat his ass and, it would have been a mess.
the two incidences that I remember, the two things I remember, man, early on in my career is I remember Kidman would get hammered pretty hard by the Steiners, and so would Disco, and it seems to me, I may have this wrong. I remember. Do you remember them like using that gaffer's tape, like tape that they use for reduction, and taping Disco to the chair?
Well, yeah, I do remember that. Yeah.
And then I can remember being in a building. I want to say, and I'm the world's worst when it comes to dates and when it comes to location. But I think it was like West Virginia or someplace like that. We were in a building, and everybody had those Toomey bags, those really expensive Toomey bags that they carried their gear in. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh, yeah.
And I remember Kidman. Kidman was doing the gimmick where he's wearing the blue jeans and the wife beater shirt, the blue jean shorts. And they had taken his bag, and they shoved it up into the ceiling tiles in the locker room. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, and here's the best part of that rib is so they won't tell him where he's at. They never let him find his gear, and then they wound up not having to tell him because his gear was so basic that they just sent out production guys to like the local Walmart or something, production assistants, to buy him like blue jean shorts and a wife beater. And he was so hot, man, for like the next 2 weeks or whatever while we're traveling, not having his gear. And then like several years later, there was a news report where they were remodeling that building, and they had found his gear up in the ceiling tiles, and they sent it back to him.
That's fucking tremendous.
That's a great rib. You gotta admit.
Now, I do remember that when that happened, but I didn't get nowhere near that. I wasn't on the level to try to butt in anything, and I didn't even really say nothing about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I can remember, too, that when they did that disco, and when they did that to Kevin, as a matter of fact, too, I can remember the Steiners, they're kind of walking through there like, nobody say anything to them. If you say anything to them, you're going to get even worse than them, you know?
Well, now, I do remember this. I don't know if you remember that. I think it was one of the trainers that they tied up. They taped.
Yes.
Now, is it now what I heard? I don't know for sure, but I've heard from more than one person they shoved a Sharpie up his ass.
Now that I don't know. I didn't get close enough to inspect, so I'm not certain about that. But
I smelled the Sharpie later, and I'm pretty sure it was somewhere it shouldn't have been.
Hey, like, you know, the best rib, the end all ribs, and I don't know if you were on this particular show or not, but the one where Kurt's under the ring with the NWO.
I love this one. Yes, tell him.
Yeah, that's my favorite rib of all time, because Kurt Hennig, nobody will ever come close to touching him when it comes on ribs. And
dude,
for the fans, phenomenal guy. And you know, I'll tell you a story later on how he kind of spurred my caricature career when we get around to that. But you know, Kurt was a part of the NWO, and if fans remember back then, we did that deal where we brought in the Warrior, and the Warrior was trying to sneak up on the NWO in every show because they had the numbers. And so they came up with this genius idea, I guess, of putting a trap door in the ring. And then they'd hit the lights and the smoke would come out. And when the lights came back on, the Warriors appeared in the ring, and it's because there's a trap door. And they ran that angle, you know, they ran that gimmick for a few weeks in a row. And then when they sort of played out, they came up with this idea of pulling the swerve on the fans, and the way they would pull the swerve is they put the NWO under the ring instead. And this time, instead of the Warrior appearing when they think that he's going to appear, all the NWO will appear, the black and white.
Yeah. And
Kurt's under there with them. And in order for this to work, keep in mind this is a live show. Nitro was
3
live.
hours long.
3 hours long. And so they have to go under the ring before the show ever starts. They've got a monitor.
Building.
Yes, they've got a monitor under the ring. They've got a headset, and they've got a little walkie-talkie so they can call back if they've got any kind of issues at all. So they get about halfway through, you know, and Kurt's under the ring, and he decides pretty early on that he's going to pull this rib, you know, and he goes, I gotta use the bathroom, man. I gotta use the bathroom. And so he's calling back. They're going, hey, man, just use a cup. This is not that. Yeah, exactly. He goes, not that. You guys got to do. So they're waiting till there's a commercial, and the next commercial break, they bring out, you know, toilet paper or something for him and slide it underneath the ring.
Bucket.
Yeah. He goes, well, then they bring him out a bucket. They slide the bucket underneath the ring. And you'll remember this. He uses the bathroom underneath the ring. But when they come back, the next commercial break.
Crap. That's why I was holding up 2 fingers.
That's exactly right. Yeah, that's exactly right. So he takes a crap under the ring. And they keep in mind, for them to do anything at all to help him out, they have to wait every commercial break. And so you're talking, you know what, 5-10 minutes in between on these blocks. And so he calls back and he says, all right, I'm done. Somebody needs to come and get this. It's starting to smell. And they send somebody out there the next commercial break. And you probably remember that they kept their tools for tweaking the ring and setting the ring up in a 5-gallon bucket under the ring. So they said, just slide the bucket out under the ring, and next commercial break, we'll grab the bucket running back to the back. So next commercial break, he slides the bucket underneath. They grab the bucket, they go back to the back, and they realize he slid the bucket that has the tools in it. He didn't slide the bucket that's got his crap in it. As the show progresses, you can see the people in the front couple of rows just starting to sell it. Never mind the guys underneath the ring selling it. The fans are selling it now. They're all looking around going, what?
Yeah, it's phenomenal. From what I remember, somebody did puke too, didn't they?
Yeah, absolutely. I want to say Scott Norton. Scott Norton was stuck underneath there with him too. Keep in mind, all the NWO were kind of stuck underneath there with him under the ring.
I remember the crowd selling it though. Yeah.
Kurt was phenomenal with that. I'll tell you another quick rib story with Kurt. This is one of my favorite of all times that nobody knows anything about. We were traveling, and it was me, Nick Patrick, Kurt Hennig, and Mickey J. Do you remember Mickey J?
Oh yeah,
Referee.
yeah.
Yeah. So we're all riding together. Mickey J and Nick's in the front, and they're in the Nick's driving. Nick's in the passenger seat, and he's nodding off. It's middle of the night. He's nodding off, and he keeps falling asleep. And Nick would even mess with him, man. He'd chop him across the chest, while he's nodding off, and he'd wake back up. So we stop at a truck stop, one of those little deals you can run in, use the bathroom, grab us something to drink or whatever. And we pull in, and we all get out. We go inside. Mickey's still asleep. He's just kind of nodded off in the front seat. We go inside. We back out. We all load back up. We get ready to leave. And he has slept through this whole thing. And Kurt says, he tells Nick, he says, "You see that semi truck over there?" He goes, "Yeah." He goes, "Pull up right in front of it, right in front of me." He said, "I talked to the dude inside. Pull right in front of it." He goes, "When I say now, turn on your lights, lay on the horn. He's going to do the exact same thing, and we'll start yelling." And so Kurt's in the back, and he goes, "Now." Nick turns on the lights. The semi truck, the lights go on. The guy's pulling down on the gimmick. He's and suddenly Mickey wakes up and he's looking. His eyes are this big around. He starts yelling. He goes, "Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God." And it looks like we're about to have a head-on collision with this semi-truck.
God dang.
It was perfect Kurt Hennig. Vintage Kurt Hennig.
Lenny used to tell me all kinds of stories about Kurt, man, because they were both from, Minnie, I guess, and they
Minnesota guys
knew him pretty well. Yeah. So
yeah,
Lenny, he was a great dude, bro.
Kurt was phenomenal. And a big guy too, man. A lot of people don't realize how big Kurt was.
Oh yeah, he was always in good shape too, man.
Yeah, great athlete.
Super nice guy, man. He was definitely one of the good guys gone too soon too, man.
No question. Not to fast forward, get ahead of us on anything or not, but if you remember, I used to do the Lashing Out cartoons for the magazine.
Oh yeah. I think you did one of me before.
I sure did, man. You're getting a haircut. Kwee's getting a haircut, man. It says, "Tell the barber, take a little off the sides and put a lot on the top." And so we would have to be at the shows, man, at noon. They didn't go live until 7 p.m. And they did that to make sure nobody lost their gear, to make sure everybody made their flight. If you had interviews or pre-tapes, you could do that, And Kurt loved the idea because I'd get there early, and if I did have pre-tapes and I didn't have anything to do, I had a lot of downtime, started dry erase with me. And we'd all those locker rooms would have those boards in the back for the professional teams. So I take the dry erase marker and I start drawing the boys in the back, man, doing caricatures of them. And Kurt was so fascinated with that, man. And he goes, "Draw Hulk Hogan. Draw Hulk." I go, "Okay." So I draw him. He goes, "Now draw him really old." I'm going, "Dude, come on." He goes, "No, draw him really old. Now draw him with a walker and an oxygen mask." And I'm going, "Man, he's in the other room." And he goes, "Look, he's not going to get hot about it." I'm going, "You're going to get me a lot of heat." He goes, "Nah, you just tell him you don't write the news, you report it." And I still use that line now when I'm drawing caricatures. Yeah, I was like, "I don't write the news, I just report it." And because of him pushing me all the time and having me draw those cartoons, and I was doing it just to get over with Kurt and just to entertain him.
Hell, who would?
Yeah, exactly. Because you love to hear him laugh, man. And Ross Foreman, you remember Ross, WCW magazine. He saw my cartoons and asked me to start doing cartoons for the magazines, and that have led me professional path of doing art.
That's awesome, man. See, you always got to get pushed somehow, right?
That's exactly right, man.
And that's kind of actually how we reconnected, because you met up with Mike Sanders. You got my number back from him, and then that's how we reconnected. So,
that's exactly right. Mike's kind of doing a similar thing to what I'm doing now, where I do, for people that don't know, I do live caricatures, and I get booked out to do private events, and they'll have me out there. And similar to, you go to Six Flags or go to a fair or something, and you see the guy drawing the exaggerated portraits, the caricatures, very quickly. Well, I get booked out to do private events, and I'm doing that. And Mike has a company where he does a lot of private events. And so our paths crossed again because of that. And that's connected all of us together, man. And I'm glad too. It's been way too long.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Cause I guess people wouldn't know this, but when we were in WWE, we were roommates actually up there for, I don't know what, better 6 months or so.
That's 9 months.
9 months. So yeah. So we, We started out in after WCW. We're kind of getting ahead, but this is how I am. I jump all over the place, bro.
That's fine, man. I'm with you. I'm following you in the match.
Also, this guy Pete here. I want to give a shout out to Pete, man. He said, "Always a great show, Allan. Love the vibe. WCW old school talent and stories." Thanks, Pete. Thanks for tuning in, buddy.
Hey, thank you, Pete.
So yeah, I connected with this dude on I think it was Instagram, but Facebook. He's always sending me some cool stuff. So thanks for watching, Pete. But so we started out as in an extended stay. Now people think, they always tell me, they see me, I drive truck now. So like, people recognize me, they see me like, what the hell are you driving a truck for? You got to be a millionaire. But I'll sell it a little bit. Yeah, but I just like driving truck. You know what I mean? So,
yeah.
So there's me, you, Rick Cornell, which was Reno and the Natural Born Thrillers, and Jamie by God Noble.
Jamie by God Noble.
Stay now. If I remember right, I think you and Jamie were sleeping in the bed together.
Yeah. We had to share a bed. It was 2 beds and 4 guys.
Yeah, so I think I was sleeping in the bed for a minute, and then I got an air mattress. But Rick Cornell was sleeping on like 8 crates on the floor.
Right. That's me after we got an apartment together too. If you remember, we moved and finally got an apartment, and I slept on an eggshell mattress in the floor in the living room apartment, man. And I had an egg crate or a milk crate rather, that I put a TV on with a DVD player. That was all the furniture I had. And part of that was I was just too stubborn to buy furniture. I didn't want to admit that I'm going to be there for a while.
Well, and that was all of us, though. I mean, now, not that we couldn't afford to buy something, but we just didn't want to. We didn't want it to seem like it was our home. We didn't.
That's right. You're selling it. Yeah, you didn't want to put it over.
Yeah. So we had an apartment, but we didn't even have a kitchen table, did we?
No. We'd eat off that little bar, man. And
that was in the kitchen. And me and Jamie slept on an air mattress in the room.
Yep.
It was a 1-bedroom. You and Lash slept you and Rick slept in the living room. And I remember Rick slept in that corner, like where the table probably would have been.
That's right. And here's the thing. I don't know if you remember this or not, but I ate almost every night. I'd eat a steak that I made on a George Foreman grill.
Yeah.
And I got so sick of George Foreman grills, it became such a gimmick to me that it reminded me of that time, that when I got home from there and that era was behind me, I had like 3 George Foreman grills at home. I took every one of my wife's George Foreman grills and I threw them out and refused to ever buy another George Foreman grill.
You know what you should have done? You should have done that scene in Office Space where they go out and beat up the printer or the Xerox machine. Right. You and your wife should have got the camera and played
baseball bat.
What was that, Gangster's Paradise? And you could have hit it with a bat.
Yes.
That'd have been awesome. Or you could have called all of us. We'd have come over there and did it with you.
Yes. Hey, what if we were all just standing around George Foreman grills putting the boots to them?
That'd be a hell of a match.
Yeah. Hey, we'd get it over. Yeah.
So do you remember any time? There was a couple different times that me and Jamie kind of got in a little scuffle in the house, like arguing and stuff. Do you remember these? Yeah. Do you remember when I threw that big ass lunchbox I had at his head? He ducked and hit the damn cupboard in the kitchen, and he's like, "Son of a bitch!" And then he come over to try to give me a shot, and we kind of scuffled a little bit. And he ran down. I went to go after him. He ran down the stairs. I had a set of keys, and he was down. We were in like the 2nd floor. So I went out in the balcony, and he was standing down there. I whizzed those keys and hit him right in the back, and he's like, "Ah, you son of a bitch!"
Yeah, yes. Hey, but I got to be honest. James was the one that just kind of kept me sane while we were there, just from the standpoint of he was so entertaining the entire time, man.
Dude,
to this day, to this day, I'll never forget him telling the story of how he got in the business and was out of the business.
Dude, you got to tell that story. You got to tell it.
We're sitting there. We're all just sitting around, and we would just play the same DVDs all the time. That was about all the entertainment.
Full Metal Jacket.
Full Metal Jacket. We'd play Full Metal Jacket. I'm the one that brought. I would bring like Full Metal Jacket, Little Nicky. We'll watch Little Nicky. I don't know, a million times.
One of my favorite movies.
Yeah, it's phenomenal. And then Jamie comes in, and there's like a 6-pack of beer sitting there, and he grabs a bottle of beer, and he starts drinking this bottle of beer, and he goes, "Hey, did I ever tell y'all about the time how I got in the business?" He goes, "No." He goes, "I'm in West Virginia. live in West Virginia, and I always wanted to be a wrestler. And I'm going to get this story totally wrong because the vibe of the story was far more important than the details. But he starts talking about how he heard there was going to be wrestling down at the fairgrounds or something, and he hitchhiked or something down to the fairgrounds. And he kind of BS'd his way into the back and told the promoter he'd been trained as a wrestler and everything else. And he gets back there, he gets to have a match. He's like, but I don't have any gear. So somebody gives me some of their gear and lets me wear their gears. He goes, so I got gear now and I got boots and I have a match. I'm in the business.
I'm in the business.
I'm in the business. So he starts going back and forth every week or something and doing this weekly for them guys and walking there, walking back or whatever the deal is. And then he says, I go there one day and the promoter says, we can't really use you anymore. Sorry. He goes, what? I'm out of the business again. And he goes back. Then at some point, the guy calls him and he comes back and he goes, I'm in the business again. And it's just a constant back and forth. I'm in the business. I'm out of the business. It's hilarious.
Now, didn't one of those stories, didn't he get rid of his boots or something?
He got so disgusted that he sold his boots or something. He goes, as soon as he sold his boots, he goes, I'm out the business again.
And then he got called back and he's back into business.
Yeah. Then I got to figure out where am I going to get some boots. I just sold my boots.
I'm back into business.
I'm back into business again.
But yeah, Jamie, dude, he didn't have that kind of personality in WCW really. At least with all the boys. But then when he got up to Cincinnati, man, he came into his own, and he was probably the top entertainer out of the boys, out of everybody up there.
You're 100% right, because you wouldn't have thought he had any charisma at all in WCW. And I don't mean that in a derogatory way. I just mean that he was quiet, he was reserved. He went out there and he was far more concerned about being a good worker. And he was a great worker, phenomenal worker. Yeah. And he was so wired into, I want to have good matches and strong matches. And they put him and did the Young Dragons thing. And then got up there to WWE, got there to Cincinnati, and suddenly all this personality came out of it. And here's what I think happened, in all honesty. And you know how this is, Allan. You know if something's going to hit and if something can get over, because if it pops the boys and gets over with the boys in the back, you know it's going to get over with the fans on TV. Yeah. And I really, truly believe that he was just like the rest of us, man. We didn't have an outlet. And now this stuff started pouring out of him in the back and around us, and while we're hanging out at night and while we're just, living life. And this stuff would come out and he'd start talking and telling stories, and he could tell he was entertaining us and popping us. And I think they just encouraged him. It encouraged him, man, and brought it out of him more and more, and it became amplified.
Now, I think you went to, wasn't it a World's Gym we worked out up there? Or what I'm thinking was a World's Gym. Now, you went to the gym with us from time to time, right?
Yeah, a couple of times, man. I don't know if you remember this or not, but I was a gym guy and always enjoyed working out, loving working out until we got up there. And if you remember,
kind of
something happened. Yeah, it sucks the life out of you, man. And then there was this incident where, and you feel like there's no light at the end of the tunnel. And then there was some incident that caused the WWE to really start bringing the hammer down. And they started, if you remember, they were testing us constantly. They were weighing us. We had to do weigh-ins once a week. You remember that?
I think we did that every damn day, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's it. That's it. And so I don't know if you remember this or not, but it was almost like, and I didn't do it purposely or maliciously is probably a better way of saying it, but it just kind of came out of me where almost as a rebellious thing, I refused to go to the gym because I was so upset at how this thing was going, man. Just I internalized all this. So
yeah, and me and Jamie were the opposite.
Right, that's right. And so, yeah, Jamie got in the best shape I'd ever seen him in ever while we were there. And you guys would go to the gym, man, and you guys would train, and we'd go in, and we'd hit Les's place to weigh in first thing in the morning. Yeah. And everybody be kind of on pins and needles and want to see what they're going to weigh. And I would show up. Do you remember this? I'd show up with a honey bun and a cappuccino.
I do remember that, yeah.
Yeah, and I was literally, I would walk in like this. I'd go, hey, man, I got a honey bun and cappuccino. I don't know if you guys know this or not, but I'm eating 9 meals a day. I'm on this diet now where I'm eating 9 meals a day to push my metabolism. Now, every meal is a honey bun and a cup of coffee, but I'm getting my 9 meals in.
Yeah. Now, see, do you remember the bodybuilder that would come up there about that time? That John Perillo and come in there with Les?
That's right. That's right.
You remember he used to not like me because I was in good shape. You remember that?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And I remember you guys saying one day, comparing me to, you're like, you're leaner than this guy and you're bigger than him. And he got mad as a son of a bitch.
He got so hot.
He didn't like me at all.
But it was true. It was true, man. It was true. You were always in great shape, man. You always had discipline. I remember while we were up there, you would buy these, I don't know how many dozens of eggs you bought every day or every other day. I mean,
yeah, I'd go to the damn Kroger and buy like freaking, I'd have to buy food every day because I ate so damn much.
That's right. That's right. It was like a forklift needed to bring in these flats of eggs.
Yeah, well, me and Jamie started going to the Sam's Club down there or whatever, and then we'd buy them big where you'd have like 15 dozen eggs in a thing, and they'd barely fit in the refrigerator.
That's right. That's right. You open our refrigerator, it was nothing but just eggs.
Yeah, eggs, and remember I used to eat waffles too sometimes.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, that's right.
And Rick ate whatever the hell he felt like.
Yeah.
Shit. And then we used to go to the gym, and then Eddie Guerrero started going to the gym with us when he came down there. So and Jamie always hung out with Eddie, and we'd go to like eat dinner with Eddie after we got done working out and stuff. So that's how I started getting a little close to Eddie about that time, which was really cool.
Eddie was so awesome there, man. And the thing about Eddie was the two things that I remember about that run with Eddie that just impressed me so much and still impress me to this day is, first of all, what a genuine, sweet, kind-hearted guy he is. Eddie Guerrero never walked into any situation acting as if he was better than everybody else, man.
No, never.
He was always one of the boys. He always cared about you, and you never got the sense that he's just talking to be talking to you. If he was talking to you, you thought you were the most important person in the world to him.
And he was trying to teach you something every time he talked to you.
Every single time. And then the other thing that really impressed me about that is, if you remember what was going on in Eddie's life at the time there, he had gone off the rehab. And he wouldn't admit this to anybody. Eddie would tell you this story. He had gone off the rehab. He had lost his career. Things were difficult at home because he had made them difficult. And he decided that he needed to change. And in order to prove himself back to the company again, he came up there. And I don't know if you know this or not. He came up there on his own dime. He wasn't under contract when he came up there the first time, when he came back there.
Yeah. And then you remember what he used to say was, it was kind of, it was true for sure, but it was kind of weird. He used to say this. I don't remember. He used to, when we used to do, we used to call them Eddie rolls when we'd roll in the ring to warm up.
Yeah, that's exactly. Yes, I still do those monkey rolls. Yeah.
Yeah. Remember Eddie said that saved his life when he got kicked out of his car when he flipped his convertible or whatever. He said, I did an Eddie roll. Remember he said that? He said that's what saved my life.
Yep, I do remember that. And here's what's crazy about that. I'll tell you this, and I've got this video somewhere. It's funny you mentioned those because I hadn't thought about that in years. And because I've shared this with you, I left the business, man, about 2010, 2011, and I'm one of those kind of guys. I'm wired to where when I flip a switch, I flip the switch. The reason why you don't see me doing a lot of these interviews and doing a lot of appearances and never really doing shows or anything like that is just because when I decided I wanted to retire, I made it a retirement thing, man. And I'm not somebody that's going to be halfway in and halfway out. Yeah. And but 2016, by that point, I'd had so many injuries from wrestling, and I was so down on myself, and it'll suck the life out of you, man. And I was 316 pounds, and I decided, man, I need to get back in shape for myself, just because I don't want people to always look at me like I used to be Lash LeRoux, or like my best years are behind me, or that I'm a shadow of myself. So I lost 100 pounds and then started getting back into the gym, and then I started building that back up again. And I was in the gym, man, just a couple of months ago, and I looked around and I thought, I don't have a ring to bump in. And I was kind of just feeling that a little bit. You know how you'll feel the business every now and then. So when it's in your blood, it's in your blood. And so I didn't have a ring, but I had enough room to do some Eddie rolls. Nice. And I was just over there where people would do some aerobics or do planks or anything else, low open space. I just did some Eddie rolls to see if I could do them, to see if I could move like that still, man. I had to prove it to myself.
Well, now, before that, we used to call them Regal rolls until Eddie got there.
That's right, because Regal would do them. That's right. That's
we used to call them Regal rolls at the power plant, but then after Eddie told us the story where he said that saved his life, we started calling them Eddie rolls.
That's right. That's right. Man, you know what I love about having conversations with you, man, is your memory is always so much better than mine. I don't do a good job of remembering all those things.
Well, doing this podcast, some of these stories already came up, so that's it's kind of fresher in my mind.
Yeah, yeah. Well, when Eddie was down there in Cincinnati with us too, here's the thing is, again, I look back, man, and I think all the stuff that Eddie had to be going through and all the trials that he had to be, challenges he was dealing with, man.
Yeah.
And yet he would take the time out and listen to me and the stuff that I was going through at the time, because we were all fried, brother. We were all at our wits' end. We were all psychologically done. And the only time in my life, I've never been the kind of guy that you could put me on the road and have me travel and travel and travel and travel, man, and I'm a warrior. I'm a road warrior. You put me on the road, man, and I know there's a show, and I'm got to get ready for the next show, and hey, man, I can go and go and go and never stop, and I'm not going to ask for time off or anything. Happy to be out there, happy to do it. But up there in Cincinnati, with there being no end in sight and feeling like there's no real goal that you're trying to accomplish, I'm man enough to admit I cracked up there. Yeah. And I cracked bad. And I don't even know if you remember this, but I was outside of our room one night, and I was talking to Eddie about it, man. And I just started.
I do remember down. Eddie. I do remember that. Yeah. I don't remember the conversation. I didn't hear any of the conversation, but I do remember that.
Yeah, I had worked so hard, man, to get to where we were in WCW to make something for myself. And I felt like it was just kind of crumbling underneath me. And what was so helpless feeling about being stuck up there is you kind of felt like you were a victim of circumstance. And I've never been a victim in my life. But you felt like you had accomplished this thing that was being taken away from you for no reason of your own, And Eddie put his arms around me and just hugged me and just embraced me while I sat there and cried like a baby on his shoulder.
And that's what I loved about Eddie, bro. That guy treated you like you were part of his family.
That's right. That's 100%, man. And just that entire family was golden. But Chavo and Eddie both so good to me my entire career. And I would do anything and go to the ends of the earth for either one of those men, even to this day, man. I hadn't seen Chavo in several years. I've talked to him a few times, but the same thing, man. I could pick up with Chavo tomorrow where we were before. And Chavo's my brother. He's my brother. Yeah. They both are.
Yeah. I mean, even so with me and you reconnecting, it was it's almost
That's
like
right.
never not talked for shit. We hadn't talked since 2003, maybe, right? Or 2001, 2002. I can't remember.
I don't know that we talked, man, since we left Cincinnati. I think when we packed up and we went, and some of that is too. It's just it's not the personal relationship that was broken. It's the fact that the situation is so broken that you just want to close that door and move on, man. And by the time you have a chance to kind of collect yourself, so much time has gone by that you've gone in opposite directions.
Now, here's my take on the whole Cincinnati deal. And this is in my, I believe this to be true. I believe WWE took us up there. They brought the guys from Memphis, which was Umaga, Rosio and Jamal, Eddie or Fatu's, Lance Cade, Steve Bradley. I know I'm missing some people. I just can't think right now. Then we go down to OVW, which was John Cena, Randy Orton, Batista, the Bash Twins, Rico, Brock Lesnar. So all these guys are, we're training with these guys from Memphis that they bring down because they shut down the Memphis territory. So our sole purpose, the WCW guys, me, you, Sanders, Jindrak, Jamie Noble, all these guys, our whole purpose was to get both of these guys from Memphis and OVW ready for TV. And guess what? As soon as they were ready, we used to go down there and have matches with all these guys on Sundays. We had matches with all these guys during the week doing shows all over around Ohio. As soon as they got ready, guess what? We got fired 2 weeks before Christmas. So me thinking that our whole sole purpose to go up there to train these guys and then they were getting rid of us isn't so far-fetched, dude. I really believe that's the case.
I don't necessarily think it's far-fetched. I also think that it's just, the bad thing about the wrestling business is it's all about timing, and that timing can work in your favor sometimes, and it can work against you sometimes. And nobody did us any favors, that's for sure, so don't misunderstand me on that. But at the same token, I think you've got so many people from WCW that just wanted a job, to the extent that even the people that were in a position to say something or to speak up for us or to talk about what we were capable of doing because we had done it before, we're not going to stick their necks out for anybody.
No, they're worried about their own livelihood.
They're worried about their own livelihood. And I also think that there was so much going on right then. because I thought about this a lot, man. And even though we had a lot of TV time and we were established guys, there weren't a lot of guys in WWE that were watching what we were doing in WCW at the time. So I don't think they were that familiar with us, the WWE, brass, for lack of a better way of putting them. And then I think the WCW guys they're not going to stick their neck out for a Lash LeRoux or an Allan.
Man, no, I agree with part of that, but I do disagree with them not knowing who we are and watching us on TV. They knew damn well who every one of us were. And all those guys, I know for a fact that I'd have Triple H come up to me at a show, introduce himself to me and say he enjoyed watching me wrestle on TV and enjoyed my work. So somebody was fucking watching us.
Yeah.
When you got a guy like Triple H coming up to you, introducing himself to me and telling me he enjoyed my work, because I wanted to do that to him, but he did it to me first.
Yeah.
So somebody was watching us, bro.
Yeah, and it's tough too, man, because there's so many things about that was set up against us from the beginning, and I don't mean that from a malicious standpoint, like somebody's out to get us or a conspiracy theory thing. I just mean that also, they want you to have a great attitude. They want you to work hard, and they want you to put your best foot forward so they can see what you're capable of and bring you up, while at the same time, and I don't fault them for this, but you and I have had this conversation. I mean, imagine again, you've got guys like me and you and Jamie Noble and Rick, and guys that have done, pay-per-views, guys that have been on TV week in and week out, guys that have proven that they can work. And I'm not saying we're the biggest stars, but I'm saying we've proven that we could hold our own, right? And so you got us sharing rooms together like that and packing ourselves in like sardines, while simultaneously starting a new show called Tough Enough and putting all these guys in a mansion that nobody's ever heard of before, and you've got no clue if they can work or not.
Yeah, I know.
And there's a part of me that goes, okay, I get it. It's just good TV and you're trying to get good ratings. Well, what would be good TV and good ratings is take all these WCW guys and put them in the mansion and call it Tough Enough. See who survives.
They would have got better ratings going to the freaking extended stay and seeing all four of us sleeping in one room.
That's exactly right. That's it. Yeah.
I mean, to me, that's better TV.
Yeah, and so looking back, it's not so much that I blame them for that as much as it is, how do you expect anybody to survive that? How do you expect them to make anything out of it?
I mean, you know what? Maybe it's unfair of me to say, describe it the way I did. I just felt that way. And I don't think I'll ever change my mind just because it just worked out like that. But maybe they started out with the intentions of something good, and it just the way it worked out, Who knows?
Well, what more could you expect either, though? Because everybody's got their own perspective, man. I've always said that I look at that a lot like, and the more I talked with guys that had been there and been through the same thing that we've been through, I mean, we're experiencing the exact same thing. And your perspective on that is so important, because it's a little bit like getting in a fight in high school, right? Everybody's got a different version of how that happened for them, because it's not that they're lying about it. It's just their perspective's different.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I will say this. I just turned 50 years old, but I'll tell you this much. You could take me down to NXT and I could do anything any of these young guys can do. I can tell you that right now. I'll go to AEW and have a match with anybody up there. You know what I mean? So, I mean, I still am confident in my ability. I mean, I'm not, 27 anymore either. But, I mean, I believe now my mental attitude was strong before, but now, so it's even more now. So, I think I could still do anything in this business. I mean, maybe I can't, but that's just my mental thought.
Well, first of all, you've got to have that mental thought anyway. That's why to where we're accomplished this in the first place. But second of all, in that, where there is a lot of truth and where I think that we get sold short a little bit, or not a little bit, a lot of it, is you need to get some years underneath you. You need to get some experience. You need to get some water under the bridge, because you need to have that time where you can marry together your physical abilities with a little bit of wisdom and a little bit of experience, to the point that you can kind of put those things together. And now all of a sudden, you're not just a guy that knows how to have a great match. You're a guy that can kind of understand the business. And you and I have talked about this. Is one of the things we had really going against us at the time is, how could we know what to do there to be successful when nobody ever really taught us the business? And
you're right. No one ever did teach us the business.
And the reason why they didn't, I think that's by design. I mean, let's be honest about it, especially in WCW. I didn't know of guys that really had agents unless you were top tier, right? You don't have people going to the mat and fighting for you. They want to keep you as ignorant as they can, because that's to their advantage when they go in to negotiate the contract. And I don't fault
Steve, we talked about that too. They weren't giving no money at the time. When we got our contracts, They weren't giving
Yeah.
no money. And then I think O'Hare and Jindrak, like I think I talked to you about this. They had,
Yeah.
I think his name was Barry. It was like Goldberg's agent.
Yes.
And they were paying him 20% or whatever. Now, you made a little more money than I did, but I can tell you right now, I wasn't making the money to give my agent 20%. I wasn't willing to part with 20 more percent because I wasn't making crap as it was.
Well, and that's the thing, and so again too is you're not wired to, and that environment was not built up to where they're going to teach you the business, because what they don't want from you is they want you to show up at the shows, them dictate to you what the match is, you be booked in the match, and you go out there and have a great match. And that's what we could do. We could work, man. We could work our butts off, and we knew the psychology of the business. But there's a difference between knowing how to have a great match and knowing the psychology of a match, and knowing the psychology of even a show, to where you could creatively put together a show, and actually understanding the business aspect of things and seeing things from a promoter's perspective. That's what we really didn't have.
Well, I mean, that makes sense you say that, because that was the case, you know. I mean,
Yeah.
that hits the nail on the head.
Yeah, and you go in kind of naive, man. You go naive where you're going, this is all new to us. We don't know what this machine that is WWE runs like, and you're half expecting it to be a little bit what WCW was. Like, we're so fond of our memories of the power plant because, let's be honest, in a lot of ways, going through the power plant was like going through the military. It's a meritocracy, right? Either you can do the work and your cream rises to the top, or you can't. There wasn't any politics involved at the power plant. You were either good or you weren't.
Yeah, exactly. You know, and that's how they wanted it to be too.
Yeah, yeah, and good on them for it. But that wasn't the case, and that's one of the things I will say, and I do my best to not ever get on the bitter train and not ever be upset about the years that I have, because I'm thankful for all the years that I had in wrestling. But one thing I will say that I never ascribed to and never believed is, you will hear all these people with revisionist history of the WCW and WWE wars and the Monday Night battles, and they'll talk about how WCW was so political, and that was what its undoing was and its downfall was. And I'll be honest with you, maybe your experience was different from mine, but I never experienced anything in WCW than a company that gave me a shot and gave me an opportunity, you know, where I didn't have one before.
They give us all a shot. I mean, they put us all on TV. We're all, you know, greenhorns coming out of the power plant, and pretty much every one of us that went through there was on TV. So how could you bitch about that? You know? Yeah. And
so my perspective is this: as I got WCW, where I can look back and say, I'm thankful for this opportunity that I was given. And anytime they put me out there, they let me have some matches. And when I had good matches, they rewarded me by booking me in more matches. Now, I may have not got shot to the moon and got pushed to the moon, but they recognized my talent. WWE, for the short stint that I was there, man, I signed a 3-year deal with WWE, lasted 9 months of that 3-year guaranteed deal, and never had one even WWE dark match. And I don't begrudge them of that. I realize there was a lot of talent vying for a spot, but I'm going, that's the part of me that feels like I was never even really given a fair shake.
Yeah. Well, now, you know, there was no rhyme. Well, I'll tell you this. Most of the guys that got dark matches at the shows we were at were all OVW guys.
Yeah,
maybe a couple of Memphis guys, but none of the WCW guys, other than Johnny the Bull, I know wrestled Rob Van Dam down in Alabama. Other than Johnny the Bull, I don't recall any WCW guy getting a dark match at any show.
Me either. I don't. And
it wasn't from like a trying, I can tell you that, because I begged for them.
Yeah, I think we all did. We all would go in there. And again, it goes back to what I was saying is, no matter how much we begged, though, nobody at that point in the business and the timeline of the business was going to put their neck out for a WCW guy.
No.
They just weren't. Yeah.
No. But, you know, most of the guys at the shows we went to, that was, I'm trying to remember, but there wasn't a lot of WCW guys on any of those shows we went to. Remember the show we went to in Cincinnati and maybe Indiana? None of the WCW guys were even there from what I remember.
I really don't remember. And then here's what I remember too, is I remember the few that I saw that were WCW guys, someone like a Nick Patrick being a referee or something like that.
Yeah.
They were kind
Charles
to
Robinson,
me.
Maybe.
Yeah, or Charles Robinson. They were kind to me, but it was a cordiality. You know what I mean? They were cordial to me, but they were walking on eggshells. Like they were afraid that if they said the wrong thing, they would get fired.
Yeah, exactly. It was nothing like the atmosphere backstage at WCW. That's for damn sure.
Yeah. And the flip side of that is, though, I'll say this, and the older I get, the more I appreciate this. No matter how people treat you in this business, and no matter what you go through, and no matter what you experience, there is something to be said for us accomplishing what we accomplished and reaching the level that we reached, to the point that you become the boys. If you're one of the boys, nobody can take that away from you. Nobody can take that away from you. You'll always be one of the boys.
Sees you to Phillips Arena.
Yeah, well, even those situations, man, and I know you shared that story with me. Not the be all end all of who gets to call who's the boys and who's not. There's a reason why we're having this conversation right now, Allan, because we're boys. We're part of the boys.
We're two of the boys.
We'll always have that fraternity. Yeah, we'll always have that fraternity. We'll always have that.
That's great. Lash, we've already gone an hour and 6 minutes, but we'll keep rolling if you want to keep going.
Man, I'm willing to go for as long as you need me to. And for that matter, I mean, you and I could always work anyway. You don't have to do us a 5-minute match.
Oh, hell yeah. You know what? I was always good at going over the time limit.
There you go. I used to love those drills we would do in the power plant, man, where you would just let people rotate in and rotate out and go as long as possible.
Yeah, those were great. Kind of like the round robin, everybody tag in and out.
Yeah, cardio drills, man.
Yeah, me and Chad Fortune were talking about those,
What a great guy.
Yeah, he was on here a couple weeks ago, Chad was.
Chad's phenomenal.
Oh, yeah, he was great, man. What I was going to say, we were talking about another story. Shit. What the hell were we talking about before we got sidetracked? Hell, I can't remember now.
Well, we were talking about the fraternity of wrestling brotherhood. And
yeah, but wasn't there something before that we were talking about that we got on the story, and before we got on the story of Jamie in and out of the business.
Well, that's going way back, man.
I'm in the business. I'm out of the business.
We made it so far. We've made it to HWA and OVW in this storyline, in this arc. And
I know. So you were at the last Nitro, right? Or were you at the last pay-per-view?
No, I was not. And I tell you the reason why is because about 4 weeks before that, I was at Thunder. And I think it was a Thunder taping, if I'm not mistaken. And you and I think I've shared the story with you. Is a lot of wrestling fans don't realize just how certain in the business, those that were in the know, or as my friend Conrad Thompson would say, those with the rumor and innuendo would be that the rumor and innuendo was that Eric Bischoff was going to buy the company, and they were so excited at that Vince really kind of wasn't. Vince Russo wasn't really calling the shots as much as Eric was backstage, and people were listening to him. And Eric, I think, was pretty certain of it because he came to me this one particular night, the last Thunder I was on, and by that point they had kind of squashed the MIA angle. They had broken us up, and Misfits weren't a thing anymore. And he just walks past me, and Eric and I had not had that much interaction before then, and not because there was any heat or anything like that. It was just Eric primarily worked with the main event guys. He was so big on the NWO angle and those main event angles that soaked in all of his energy. And I understand that. And he walks past me, man, backstage and just in passing goes, "Cut your hair, you look goofy," and keeps going. And I don't know how to take that. I'm going, this is guy's probably going to be my boss. And he was already my boss
he
before.
Loves the show. It's been awesome, that Lash.
Oh, thank you, Pierce. Appreciate you, brother. And he's telling me to cut my hair, and I really don't know if is that a good thing or a bad thing. And I'm just sitting there kind of not knowing how to take it. But of course, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, boss tells me I'm going to cut my hair, I'm going to cut my hair. And he comes back about, maybe 45 minutes or an hour later, and he pulls me aside. And it takes the most time Eric's ever taken with me, and I appreciated this so much, man. The gesture of it meant the world to me, just because it's the first time somebody's kind of explaining some things to me. And he goes, "Look, Lash, I didn't mean that to come off the way that I'm sure it came off." He goes, "Here's what I'd like for you to do." And, I got a little pudgy from the MIA gimmick. I got to wear a shirt while I'm doing that gimmick, so I didn't have to worry about the abs or anything. And he goes, "I'd like for you to be strictly a cruiserweight again." They had felt like during the Vince Russo era that some of these established stars that were the monsters had been kind of marginalized, and people really didn't believe that they were the tough guys anymore. And one of the guys that he put in that particular, I think category was Rick Steiner. And so I was wrestling Steiner that night, and he told me, he said, well, look, we want to make him look strong. Want time to just kind of glom you and beat you up, and just if you'll put him over, send you home, have you cut your hair, lean up a little bit, bring you back in about 4 or 5 weeks, and we're going to make you the cruiserweight champion, and you have a little run with it. And I appreciated that so much, man. And went out, did the deal with Rick. You know, he kills me in the match, and they do the stretcher job and put me in the ambulance and do the backstage gimmick on that whole deal and everything else. And,
Yeah,
you know, the old trainer. Yeah. You know, and Danny Young. Remember Danny? You know, the trainer. He's in that little spot where he's checking on me, and they're putting me in the ambulance, and I go home. And I was at home leaning up, training hard every day, getting ready for that comeback, and I watched that buyout happen live on Nitro just everybody else.
Yeah, dang.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny. I've told this story before, but I don't know if I've told you this. I was with Ross Foreman. We went down to Florida. I wasn't even booked on the pay-per-view in Jacksonville, and I was booked on Nitro, but not the pay-per-view. So we go down and watch some baseball games because we knew some, you know, Sean Casey from Ohio. For the Reds. So we go down there to watch some baseball games. It was spring training. So me and Ross head down there for a couple of days. So we head back to Jacksonville because Ross had to do some stuff for the whatever he did, you know. And so we're driving to the pay-per-view. Well, I remember Kevin Nash calls Ross. And we're both talking to him on the phone. He said, hey, Vince just bought the company. And I'm thinking, you know, the first Vince I heard, I'm thinking, Vince Russo? Like, I thought Eric Bischoff was buying it. You know, I mean, at this point, I'm acting like a freaking total moron because I just got one Vince in my head, not thinking Vince McMahon bought the company. So Kevin's like, yeah, Vince McMahon just bought the company. And I'm thinking, well, this is horse shit because I've been having meetings with Eric Bischoff and he's telling me I'm going to be his next big star making big money. So I'm thinking, I asked Kevin, I said, what do you think that means for me? He goes, well, as far as I know, they're going to pick up your contract. But after that, I have no idea. So that's how I found out. And then we go to the pay-per-view. I'm not even booked on the pay-per-view. They want me and Jason Jett to have a match. Of course, I'm not going to turn it down. We have one hell of a match on the pay-per-view. And then I'm booked on Nitro, but I didn't end up doing nothing. We go to the show. Who's there? Shane McMahon, Jerry Briscoe, Patterson, all the production crew, WWE. And I'm like, that's when it set in. Like, fuck, he really did buy the company.
Yeah. So, it's a different animal at that point.
Yeah, it was crazy. It was just a different vibe backstage, Lash. And you're probably almost glad you weren't there because it was such a weird vibe that it wasn't fun, but it wasn't like not fun. It just seemed kind of stale.
Yeah.
It just seemed weird. You know?
Well, you know, I look back on that time, man, and of course hindsight's 2020, but it felt like from the moment that the company was bought on, you kind of felt the end of the era. You just kind of felt it in your bones. You were hoping for the best, but you could it was like that cloud that's just kind of hanging over you that any moment's going to drop a tornado out of it. You know,
you had a small leak in the tire and it just took a while to deflate.
Yeah, that's exactly right, man. And look, I don't care what anybody says. The other thing that I disagree with completely, man, is that WCW at that point not being a viable company. Man, WCW, it had some flaws, but man, it was as healthy as anything, I think, in my opinion.
Well, no, maybe the talent down there you had great talent. How they used it may be another story.
Well, absolutely. And you can always book better. Don't misunderstand me on that. But from a dollar and cent standpoint, people that like to say that Eric spent the company into ruin and everything else, man, I just don't see how that's possible because here was my comparative at the time. My comparative at the time when I stopped and I mulled it over and I thought about it from a business standpoint. I go, you take the worst NFL team there is out there, right? Mm-hmm. How many people do they draw into a game, man? Like 2,500 or something if they're lucky, you know. You think
like probably more than that, really.
Well, you know, but the NFL teams now are, you know, I can remember when there was empty stadiums, man, back in the 90s with like the Cleveland Browns and stuff like that, you know, the worst teams ever.
Hey, watch it. That's my team.
I get it. No, but but you look at them, man, and would you feel better if I said Cincinnati Bengals, by the way? No, I'm just kidding. But you look at that, man, you look at their roster, and you look at how much more NFL talent made than wrestlers made on the average, right?
Oh, yeah, no shit.
and their merchandising, I'm sure, was through the roof, but ours had to be comparable at the very least with the video games and everything else that we had going on. And then you add to that, now they've got to generate revenue just off of what back then, a 14-game season or something like that, right? And WCW, we didn't have an off season, brother, and we were selling out places, left and right. We'd have these huge crowds year round. Man, you're constantly doing shows, and I just don't see where there was not the revenue stream that there needed to be. And even the ratings, for that matter, at our worst, our ratings were still viable.
Yeah. Now, like I always, and we had this conversation Sunday when we ate breakfast. Like, when WCW, WWE were both in business, they're doing 10s and 9s or 9s and 8s or whatever. And then after WCW got bought out, and let's just say the 10 means 10 million and 9 million or whatever, just for argument's sake, and to make it simple. Then when WCW got bought out, WWE's only doing 2s, 3s, and 4s at the highest. So if you're doing 4 million after they were already, we're at a 19 million, where the hell's the other 15 million people at?
That's right. That's right. And I think part of the magic in wrestling is competition breeds interest. Yeah. Competition breeds interest. Even if they're not even going head to head, it breeds interest. Because I can remember when I was a kid, man, I wasn't just a WWE guy or a WWF guy. You're entirely too kind of
You're trying to take my girlfriend away from me in Australia. She says, "Gotta say, you're amazing, Lash." Annette, we're not getting married now. Just forget it. I can't help it. Lash trying to steal my girl away from me.
No, I just appreciate getting put over. But
I'm sorry to cut you off.
No, but that competition does breed interest. It really does, man. And I remember being a kid growing up, man, and I wasn't just a WWF guy. I was a WWF guy, but I also wanted to know what the NWA was doing and compare the two. And then I compared the AWA to that as well. I think that's part of what's working for AEW right now. It's just you've got this other alternative, and just the fact that there's an alternative makes it interesting. Never mind the good booking that they're doing, the talent that they're bringing in, and everything else.
Sorry, man. Dude, I thought I saw this comment to can you see Glenn down here?
I saw one a second ago pop up. I saw a Jericho comment.
Oh, no. Yeah. No, let's see. What did this guy say? Yeah, this guy said, I liked him. He reminded me of Chris Jericho. I think he's talking about you. I don't know. I'm pretty sure.
I got that a lot in WCW. I don't know why, but I always got that a lot in WCW, even to the point that here's a funny story on that. Not to get off on a sidetrack, but a little tangent here. I can remember WCW, and I don't know if you ever heard this or not, but there was a rumor there for a while that I was like Chris Jericho's cousin or something. Even to the point that do you remember that? I even had a couple of the boys. Oh, you don't remember that? I even had a couple of the boys come up to me and ask me about that. And I'm going, where did that come from?
Yeah. I never heard that.
Yeah.
Huh. Well, shoot. Sorry, man. I thought I was typing this. We got a comment section up here, but I got a Glenn here joined us. He's I guess he's going to be doing the producer stuff here at the end. So
okay.
I thought I sent him a private message, but it popped up on the regular comments.
I hope you were burying him.
This is me being a greenhorn. I'm going to get fired from the MWA Podcast Network.
That's funny.
Hey, Piers, if you're still listening, buddy, I'm sorry. Piers is like the Eric Bischoff of the MWA Podcast Network.
You got it. Hey, let me take a bathroom break real quick. I'll come back.
Well, listen, if you want to wrap it up, Lash, we've already won an hour and 20 minutes. If you want to wrap it up, we'll wrap it up. And I can always have you back on the show. But yeah, man, let's wrap it up because listen, I got to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning. So, but I'll have you on for part 2 on coming up here if you don't mind.
Hey, you say the word whenever, running, my friend.
But I tell you what, Lash, you go ahead and go to the bathroom, but don't leave. Come back, and I'll talk to you after I send them off here.
Okay, sounds good.
But hey, go ahead and say hey to my fans or plug anything you want to plug your characters real quick.
Hey, look, if you want an authentic, original Lash LeRoux caricature of yourself, if you want to get rates on that, just drop me an email at lashwcw@aol.com. Yes, I am still that old school. LashWCW at AOL.com. Hey, if you want a caricature, a commissioned piece of artwork from me, I'll draw you. I'll even draw you with your favorite wrestler if you want me to.
And I sent that. Make sure this is the link right here. I sent your email right there. That's it, right? Lash,
perfect. That's perfect.
Yeah, send Lash a email. He does great characters, man. You won't get a better one.
Thank you, brother.
So, hey, Lash, thanks again for taking out your time. I know your time's valuable. You were doing stuff at the church today, and I appreciate you joining us and taking time out of your schedule, buddy.
Hey, anytime at all, brother. It was a pleasure to catch up with you again with the little Celera Bon Ton de Luda.
Let the good time roll, baby.
All right, let's hit it, Bon Ton, roulette.
All right, man. Come on back after you take a leak and join us.
I'll do it, man. Thanks.
All right, Glenn, let's send him home, baby.